All right, so once you have something rendered out, you need to make it into an actual movie. So inside of After Effects, I'm going to double click in this project window and go find one of my pieces of footage. So in this case, it doesn't matter because I'm just showing you an example. So I'm just going to go and find character rig, images. There we go. So here's a rendering that I did before. I'm just going to grab on to, let's say, any one of these files. So this is my bouncy one. I'll grab any one of these bouncy files here. At the bottom, it'll say Open EXR Sequence. So I want to make sure I click that. And I'll hit Import. And then this brings in my whole sequence. There's my animation. I want to verify up here that it says 30 frames per second. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to Interpret Footage and go to Main. So I'm going to say assume this frame rate 30 frames a second, so I can change it there. If I had a background in this that I wanted to be transparent, I would say pre-multiply. If I have a background in it that I want to be visible, then I would say ignore. Okay, in this case it doesn't matter for either one, so I'm going to hit open. Then I'm going to take this and drag it down to my new comp button, which is right here. There's my animation. I can hit the space bar and play it and see what it looks like. You'll see I got some motion blur on it. And it's playing back pretty slow because this is a bigger file. Once it's done, it'll play back at real time. Okay. If I'm happy with it, I like the way it turned out, I'll go to File, Export, Add to Media Encoder Queue. Now this next part will take a minute on the college's computers, but it's just how it is. So just give it a minute and then it'll open up Media Encoder and your file. Alright, so this is what it looks like when you open up Media Encoder, or when Media Encoder opens, and you'll see your composition should show up here. Now it might take literally 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, depending on how big your scene file is. In this case, I exported something a while ago and never deleted it, and so it's showing up here. And then I have my bouncy one. So I'm just going to click on this and delete and say yes. If you were to have gone into After Effects and you exported, let's say, 15 times you click this button, then when you come into Media Encoder, it would actually list 15 of these things here. So we don't need to change anything really huge. This should be H.264, perfect. And then this is just going to be where it's going to save to. So I'm going to put that into my folder, character rig, movies, and I'm going to call it Sarcona underscore whatever the name of my file is. So in this case, it's bouncy. So you obviously call your stuff whatever it is, your last name underscore whatever the file is. And then you just hit this play button and then it'll go through and actually render out your movie. And again, it might take a minute or two to load up, but the rendering part of this should be pretty quick. And then once you're done, play the movie, make sure it still looks good, and then you should be good. Some things you may want to adjust if you've never used After Effects, you can adjust some of your coloring and stuff inside here. Under Effect, under Color Correction, if you needed to, let's say, go to Exposure and adjust the exposure. Maybe it's too dark, you want to brighten it up, or vice versa, you want to darken it down. You can adjust what that looks like. You could also go to Color Correction, go to Hue and Saturation, and you could also play with, let's say, the master hue, or play with the saturation, or any of the same things you would do in Photoshop. Don't think that just because you rendered out of Maya that you're stuck with that look. You can tweak some of those settings and really customize what your stuff is going to look like. Okay. So this is almost done inside here. If I did do any changes, I would just go back to After Effects, export it out again, and then come back in here, change this, make sure it's H.264, and then render it again. All right, so that's how you take your movie and render it out.